welcome to today's webinar on hiring and recruiting. Firstly, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting today. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So for those who don't know me, my name is Caitlin and I'm from the Queensland Government's Mentoring for Growth program. So this program provides free mentoring sessions for eligible business. We match you with business mentors who provide food for thought, insights and suggestions around the challenges and the opportunities that you face as a business owner. So that's the team that I'm from. I'm delighted today to facilitate this session on hiring and recruiting. Finding the right person for the right position is integral to the success of any business. So as I said, quite excited to deliver and facilitate the session for you today. So we are lucky enough to have 4 of our wonderful mentors here today. We're still waiting on Bronwyn, but firstly, I'll just run through what our mentors will be covering today. So firstly, we'll hear from Caesar, who will discuss the hiring needs, position descriptions and selection criteria. We'll then hear from Clayton, who will shed some light around advertising and where and how to find the right candidates. Next, Shane will chat to us about interviewing and shortlisting. And then Bronwyn will wrap us up today with onboarding and how to make an offer. So we'll also have an opportunity for questions today. So if you have a question during any of the presentations, please pop it in the Q&A function and we'll work through them towards the end of this session. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Caesar. Thank you so much, Caesar.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for everyone that's here. I appreciate. So, do I need to introduce myself? Caitlin, how are we gonna roll that? Is usually the way we do?
Yes, please do a short introduction and then roll through. Thank you.
You're welcome. And do you mind if you text me the topics that we're gonna be talking through, because then I will follow that up.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So today you'll be looking at discussing hiring needs, selection criteria and position description, Caesar.
Excellent. So you're welcome. Thank you. So my name is Caesar Hasselman. I do consulting, coaching, mentoring, working with Mentor for Growth for a while now. With this beautiful team and giving support for businesses as we can. So in the first step that we have to talk, I'm going to talk about why should you bring someone to work in your business. So I believe that the first thing that any business supposed to be aware is their needs. And before you think about open a position, you need to understand what you have already. And if you do have people qualified to fit those needs on a daily basis, sometimes a proper conversation can fit needs from people that you have today before you think about hiring anyone. And also, if you know exactly what's the gaps of the business, then you can start to change or adapt what you have as a job description, which is nothing more than people to cover the needs of the business as you go. Is that right? Is that a good way to start to talk?
Yes, fabulous.
Is that good?
Yeah. And if you could sort of touch on how you put together those position descriptions, Caesar.
That's good. So then once you arrive at the place that you say, okay, I have some gaps in the business, I have a potential already today's people that can look after that. So then what you do is you break that down in what the company needs, what the potential of the people, and then you can qualify them in your job description. Could be a strict job description as you can find in any place, or could be a specific one for your business. The way that I work is I try to find things that can adjust the business needs to the position needed. So what we do is you pre-qualify from ground up, and then from business owner perspective, what is the position, what's the needs that you have for the specific task, right? Do you want me to put names on that, Caitlin?
If you could just sort of touch on how you then grab the position description and translate that into a selection criteria.
Okay. So when we find a place that we have the gap of the position, and you're breaking down what's the needs that you have, and you I'm sorry, I just lost the plot, Caitlin. I just lost completely the plot. And how can I really
Thanks. No,
describe
it's
that?
all good. It's Monday. No, that's
Yeah.
fine. So in regards, so we've got you've identified that gap in the market, in your business rather, and then you've then determined your position descriptions to fill that particular gap. How do you then just translate that into your selection criteria? We're getting it out to market.
Okay, so the way that I do is, first of all, I put it the key points that I need from the people that I'm chasing for, and then from those key points, I ask them to double check the CVs, but they are just reference points for you, right? So if you understand that you need a person that's more focused in a numbers, or if you have someone that needs to analyze and understand people, what you do is you break down the emotional intelligence that you need from that person, or the techniques or experience that you need from them in a bullet point. Example, if you're gonna chase a receptionist, example, right? Let's start from the basics. A receptionist actually is much more supposed to be much more specialized at what looks like, because they are the introductions of your business, and they usually need to be very smart, intelligent, to be able to catch people. So you can train them as you go to learn your business, and if they have the emotional intelligence and the basics knowledge for that you need for them for the day-to-day tasks, then you put it the basic needs that they have, past experience, and a lot of folks in the emotional intelligence items that you need. And of course, after that, the most important thing is, when you put it out there, it's make sure that those people that you're interviewing have the emotional intelligence that you need to be able to coach them through the business itself, if you're talking about the basic place. Do you want me to go in different levels, Caitlin?
No, we've only probably
In the
got
company?
5 minutes we've probably only got 5 minutes per mentor, so we'll probably have to wrap that up. Do you have any other points in regards to the high level of the position descriptions or role descriptions?
Yeah. So
otherwise we can
if
cover it off in
if you
question.
So if you have a high level people that you need to bring on board, so the key point is understand the ego, understand the elements that they bring to add value, and understand if that elements to add value and the ego gonna sync with your culture, which is the most important thing for you to sync when you bring somebody else to the business. Sometimes a gun person to come is better not coming if the ego gonna damage your culture. So pay attention on that.
Great. Thank you, Caesar.
Is that right?
Thank you so much. Wonderful.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we're going to pass it over to Clayton. Clayton's going to cover a little bit of advertising and where and how to find the right candidates. Thanks, Clayton. You're just muted, Clayton.
No, I'm not now. That's good. There we go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Clayton. I run a business called Little Pig Consulting up in Toowoomba, and I've been a mentor for growth and for a little while, and also a mentor for TAFE Queensland still currently. So my subject is around about advertising, and so I've got 3 sub points: where to advertise, what should be included in the ad, and thirdly, what can you be doing before and during and post advertising for candidates. I'm going to skip to the third one first, which is what you can do prior to going to market before you actually need a candidate. The whole idea would be to become the employer of choice. So how do you become the employer of choice? Well, I think it starts from the leadership team right down through the existing team that you've got, as has been touched on already around culture, making sure that you have a really good culture within your business and you keep everybody within the culture that you want to create. That can be as simple as having, vision, mission, and values documents around your office, which we have, which can, remind staff of what the values are of your business. What you can do also prior to going to market for a candidate is making sure that your website is up to date with all of the products and services that you offer. Make sure there's plenty of stories there telling about where the brand came from, why the business exists, who their customers are. So then when someone's looking for you or they find your ad, that they go and look for you online and they can see a bit of a story about your business and what you do. That also flows over into your social media as well. So making sure your social media channels, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, also does reflect the branding and the style and the look and the feel and the culture that you want to put out there, because what you're putting out there is what you're trying to get back. So that was point number 3. So I do that in reverse. Where to advertise? Well, there's a number of places that you can advertise. Seek being the number one place to advertise. Indeed is another, and I'm sure there's other new websites similar. But try and think of something a little bit different. And what we've done just recently, we're looking for a candidate at the moment, is we've actually used Facebook. There's a couple of local job boards here in Toowoomba. So we've actually posted our link to our Seek ad in that job board, or spotlight, I think, can't remember what it's called, but there's little Facebook groups. So have a look around your neighborhood on Facebook and see whether there's any, Facebook groups that you can share that job link with. So that should cover off where to advertise. I think that's fairly easy to do. Of course, you can, maybe you could create a blog post and send out to your existing client base too. Maybe they know somebody. That might be another idea that you could do. The second one was what should be included in your ad. Well, clearly good quality copy. So very clearly list the duties that you're looking for, the responsibilities, and make sure the job fits what everything matches. I suppose there's no good looking for a receptionist if you expect her to do something outside what a normal receptionist would do. The other thing that we've done is included a video in our ad, which is a little bit different. And so it doesn't have to be a highly professional video, shot on the latest camera with all the latest gear, but it could be just a simple video from your iPhone explaining who you are, what the business is about, and the type of person that you're looking for. Video is, as we all know, is very, very powerful. So people can relate a lot quicker to video than just reading something on the page. So we've currently got an ad running. If you want to go over to Seek and have a look at our ad that we're running at the moment, and there's a video there as well saying a little bit about our business. So where you can, maybe pop a video, upload it into YouTube, and then you can actually use that YouTube link and embed that link into the Seek ad. Seek actually has a spot for video. So that covers off where to advertise, what I think should be included, and what you can do prior and post. So become the employer of choice.
Great. Thanks so much, Clayton. Okay, Shane, over to you. Interviewing and shortlisting.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name's Shane Brand. I've got about 30 years experience in business development and currently run a consulting company called Strive for Success. So my topic for today, obviously, is interviewing and shortlisting. And in my many years of experience, I've done many interviews. And I think I've seen from all ends of spectrums. But probably the most important thing to take on board with the interviewing process, or the getting the candidates ready for the interview process, is it's the relationship is this is the first time you start to build a relationship with your potential employee. So everything you do, everything you say, every bit of communication, the more professional that you can present it, and video links that Clayton was mentioning before, great stuff like that, all helps to build this professional image of your company, because they are looking at you as much as you are looking at them. So hopefully from all of your advertising bits and pieces, you've got heaps and heaps of resumes, and obviously from that you need to do a cull. So obviously you'll have set criteria, and you will often get resumes from people who are clearly not suitable for the role, but you need to cull that list down, and you end up with, hopefully, you end up with half a dozen treasures at the end of the process for which you can move forward with. So once I've got myself down to that half a dozen, hopefully I send an email. I don't tend to call them first up, because typically people are working, and if they're moving from a current job, it sort of puts them in an awkward situation if you ring them up and they go, oh gosh, can't talk now, I tend to like to send an email just saying, hey, thank you for your application. We're interested in talking further. Give me a call. Here's my number. And wait for them to reply back on that. This is where the process really begins with your evaluation of the potential candidate, is when they do actually call back. I typically have about 3 questions, nothing crazy or over the top. Things like, I've looked at the resume and seen what their job turnover is like, and is there any sort of flags there that sort of make you want to ask questions about why they currently want to leave the job that they have, or if there's anything else that's unusual in the resume at all that you want to ask questions. The whole point of asking these few questions is, firstly, finding out, can the person communicate, as in verbally, and then can they answer a question? You'll often talk to people and you'll ask a question like job turnover, and they've disappeared off into the ferry somewhere about a holiday somewhere or whatever. So it's got nothing to do with anything. So you need to make sure that the person can answer the question. So if you get to that point and you're happy with what you see, then it's time to organise the interview. Okay, so if you can do that on the spot, it's great, because everyone's in the mode. They're obviously, they've created time to talk to you, and you obviously have time to talk to them. I tend to have a little schedule sitting out, which you can quickly put the person in there, and if you can organise the interview right there and then, great opportunity to do that. But then the most important thing, send a confirmation email saying, this is the date, this is the time. Have a copy of the position description in there. I'm a great believer of highly detailed, not stupidly detailed, but highly detailed position description. The person needs to know what the role is. So I try to make the position description reflect that as much as possible. Send them a copy of the PD, and then all going to plan, they turn up on the interview date, and unfortunately you still have about 20% that don't even turn up, don't ring. It's unfortunately just the nature of the beast these days. So then we have the next challenge. Here you have this person, you've got typically 30 minutes, maybe an hour, absolute tops, where you've got to make a decision about, is this the person, the right person for your job? So one of the things I like to do is always have a second person there. Even if you're a small bit, you're a sole operator and you're employing your first person, or you really only have a couple of staff, it's great if you've got someone else in the room with you, even if it's a family member, your partner or something like this. Just have someone else in there to balance the conversation, or not necessarily the conversation, but someone you can discuss concerns or your thoughts about the interview at the end. Doing it on your own is always challenging. One of the key things in this process is finding criteria on which all of the applicants are evaluated. If you just read the person's resume, ask a bunch of questions on the day, you ask a different bunch of questions to the next person and a different bunch of questions to the next, it's a waste. To me, you're making the job extremely difficult for yourself. So you need to try and standardise the process of the interview down, so that you have a whole bunch of criteria or a whole bunch of questions. You're asking the same questions to the candidates, and you're getting the responses of which you then can compare to each other. So I always like to throw in your tools to help in the process as well. Some years ago, I was 20 years or more, a speed and accuracy test was introduced to me. And it's just basically a couple of columns of numbers, and you have to tell if they're different or the same, and you've got a certain time period to put it to get through as many of these things as you can. So initially I only used it for people, candidates that were working into admin roles, but then post that I realised the value of this thing as in being able to compare, having a tool there to help me to compare candidates to candidates, even if they only get halfway through the test. But you can get an idea of how well their brain thinks and how accurate they are with data manipulation, or as in data processing. So I use that with everybody, and it is certainly a part of my selection criteria at the end. Rolling back to the interview itself, standard questions, I mentioned that before, and some of the, I typically have a list, depending on the role, of about 20 or 30 questions, and I cull that list down depending on what the role is, because in an interview, it's not really about me talking endlessly for 30 to 40 minutes. You need to engage the candidate and have them talking to you, because you're trying to work out their suitability for their organisation or for your organisation. And if you sit there and do all the talking and they say nothing, I'm not sure what you'll get out of that at the end of the day. But standard questions like explaining the role. I've sent them the position description. I now have an expectation that they've read that document and they can come back to me and say, oh yeah, this job is da, 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 da. And if they get that right, perfect. Explain to me about the company. Clayton mentioned about the website there before. That's absolutely spot on. My expectation when someone comes to an interview is they have looked at my website, they have seen who I am and what we do, and they should be able to explain to us what we actually do. And another one of the sort of stock standard questions is why are they interested in the job? But again, having set questions, set criteria is the only realistic way that you're going to be able to compare all of your candidates and make a decision about which one is the right one and which is the wrong one. Don't be afraid to write notes during the interview. Nothing for me to pause. Someone's answered a question a particular way and particularly of some interest to me, so I like to write a few extra notes in there. Don't be concerned if there's pauses in the interview while you do things like that. That's just the way the process is. And then obviously we have, sorry, going back to the questions again, obviously you have a list of standard questions. You'll always find that there's some questions that you need to ask based on the information they've contained in the resume, which may not be relevant to the other candidates. So again, don't be concerned about asking those questions as well. I have interview flags. When I've got a panel of, I typically like to have 3 people, 2 other people with me. I have flags, so I tend to run the interviews, and they all know that if I don't talk about money, I'm not particularly interested in the client, not in the candidate. So if we get to the very end, where I would typically talk about, do you understand what the financial expectations are exactly for this role? If I don't say anything about that, they know straight away that I'm not interested in that particular candidate. So that doesn't mean we write the candidate off. It just means that the next phase where they get to ask their questions, they get to probe a bit more to try and drag me back the other way. So, but yeah, don't be concerned about make sure that you have some sort of, flags for the other panel members. Once you finish the interview itself, make sure the candidate has an understanding of when you'll respond. Don't leave it open-ended. So if you're you're interviewing all this week and you're going to make a decision on Friday, let them know. Say, okay, we will be back to you on such and such a day with an answer to the question. Don't leave it open-ended. It's important that they get that piece of information. Punctuality, presentation and attitude. I'm an ex-military man for many years ago, so they're very, very important to me and my criteria, and they factor into everything that I do in interviewing. Post the interview, once the candidate's left the room, the information's fresh in your head. It's time for you to write some notes, talk to whoever is with you with the interview, and just thrash out any questions, concerns and comments that you've got right there and then. And one of the big things, if you've got the right candidate sitting in front of you and you feel really confident about this particular person, and particularly in the current climate, don't let them go away. As in, just say to them, look, can you just go downstairs for 5 minutes, go to another room and have the chat. If you don't think it's the right person, obviously you can send them away and talk to them later on. But if you think you've got the right person sitting in front of you, don't be afraid to make the decision right there and then. So, and get them on board. Which now rolls me over to Bronwyn, who is now talking about making the offer and onboarding.
Thanks, Shane. Bronwyn.
Oh, that is awesome information, Shane. I've been writing notes myself there. My name's Bronwyn Reid. I own a couple of businesses in Emerald in regional Queensland. One of our businesses is an environmental company. Out of that, I've grown a second business where I help SMEs engage with big companies, because that is not always an easy thing to do. The two parties basically speak a different language. So I guess that's my superpower. Once we've found that right person, as Shane said, it's then a case of putting an offer to them. I don't know about you, Shane, and the other panel members, but we would always use a formal letter of offer that sets out everything. And then, of course, if they accept that and say, yes, I do want to join your company, then it's time to start looking at contracts and signing contracts and finalising any additional bits that go with the contract. Like, is there a car? Is there a phone? Are there any additional leave provisions? All that sort of stuff. Then you then have to settle on a starting date. And this is where it can all go very well, or it can go very badly. In our environmental company, we've actually we celebrate 26 years in business next month. So we must have been doing something right, I think. We've built up quite a comprehensive onboarding process. Now, that doesn't mean it always goes according to plan. Sometimes life just gets busy and things get dropped through the cracks, but we do generally stick to the onboarding plan. And there's a couple of reasons that we do that. The onboarding period can actually be the most important part of your employee's experience with your company. If they arrive, there's no desk, there's no computer, they're not introduced to anybody. Those negative feelings can set up very, very early in the relationship. However, 22%, according to Harvard Business Review, 22% of companies have no onboarding process at all. So, but if you do have a good, strong onboarding process, you're going to see a 70% increase in productivity of your new employees, and they are 70% more likely to stay for more than 3 years. Now, we all know in the present environment how hard it is to find one person, let alone losing that person and then incurring the cost and trying to find another person. So that onboarding process can be really, really critical in securing that good employee that you've just found. Just as an interesting note there, one other statistic I find is that just over 30% of employees look for another job within 3 months. How frightening is that? You've just spent all that time and money and advertising and interviewing, and then they just zip away. We use a skills matrix, which I know that you cannot see that, but we've identified all the critical skills for every position. We've broken it up into computer skills, finance and admin skills, et cetera, all the way down the side. Then we allocate that to either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1, it's not required for that person. 2, it is required. 3, they are competent in that skill. And 4, they can actually teach that skill to somebody else. So it's a movable feast. It's reviewed every couple of months, hopefully, with the new employee. Sometimes that bit drops a bit. So the employee can then track their skills. To go with that is an onboarding plan, which sets out all of those skills with when we hope to teach them that. So, week 1 will be introduced to all the other people, assign a mentor, show them where all the facilities are, et cetera, et cetera. And then that goes out for 3 months. So at such and such a point, might be taken out for their first field visit in the environmental business, et cetera. So it's all well laid out. And the employee knows exactly what's going to happen. They can then come back to us, which this employee has. He's been with us 6 weeks, come back to me with that on Friday and said, hey, Bronwyn, can we sit down this week and go through my skills matrix and see where I am? So that's our approach to onboarding, and please don't forget it as part of the recruitment process, because it is important.
Great. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. Okay, lots of information there for us all to digest. I'm happy now for us to go through a bit of a Q&A phase. If you'd like to pop your questions in the Q&A function there, we can have a bit of time for questions. Okay. First question, Shane, do you want to ask, should I use an agency? What are your thoughts around that?
Sorry, you broke up badly there, just halfway through that question.
Oh, no worries. Should I use an agency, and what are the benefits of moving? Should I use an agency or should I not use an agency?
I have used agencies in the past, particularly for the more senior roles, as in management roles, mainly due to the fact that the employee is paid quite well, and the fee structure for these organisations are quite high, but there's guarantees attached to it. So if the person does leave in a short period of time, and it did concern me that, was it 30% of them are looking for a new job in 3 months? That worried me. But if this person moves on, you've got a guarantee in place, and they do a lot of the vetting process itself to marry up the right, because obviously it's in their vested interest to make sure that they do this transaction only once. They don't want the client or the candidate leaving either. So, but for the more junior roles, I think it's too cost prohibitive to go down that particular path.
Okay, good insight. Thank you, Shane. Okay, Clayton, can you help us here? What questions do you ask when seeking a reference?
One of the best questions you could ask, I believe, is, and one of my employees just left us a few years ago, and he's still asking me for a reference, it's actually a good thing that he had a good time here and feels comfortable enough to use us. And the question that I would like to ask when looking for a reference would be, if Mike, as an example, had some areas of improvement, what do you think they might be? So oftentimes ex-employers will, want to do a good job and be nice and etc. But I think asking some of those stickier questions around if there was a bit of, not a failing, but if there was something that he could work on, what would it be? And another question could be, would you hire them again? And that was actually one of the questions that was asked of me in this reference. And I said, absolutely, I would rehire him. So yeah, a couple of sticky questions. Don't be afraid to ask something a little bit more pointed to get a little bit of something that's not necessarily positive, because you can really get to know that candidate via asking a question such as that.
Great. Thank you so much, Clayton. Okay, another one's come through. Caesar, so you mentioned during your chat a little bit of importance around culture. So this attendee has asked, how do I retain and hang on to my employees? So I'm presuming that has a lot to do with the culture.
Yeah, that's true. I believe that when you set up the profile or your avatar, the person that you're chasing for, you're supposed to take in consideration the way that you do the management, the team that you have built. So what's the impact, positive and negative, that personality, that person can bring to you before you accept them, just focus on the results that they can give to you. So I believe that's the best way for you to protect your culture. At the same time, make some of your staff member also be present or do the second interview in case you have a 1, 2, 3 interview process. That's also help you to manage the entrance and the culture, because you have some more people around you that supporting that engagement, and the key stakeholder for that position supposed to be present too.
Great, thank you, Caesar.
Okay,
Bronwyn, what are the top attractions for recruiting new staff? Thank you, Bronwyn.
I would have to say your company culture above everything else. We all know how difficult it is to find people now, and particularly with millennials, they are perfectly willing to move, go, take a job that accords with their purpose in life, their beliefs, rather than work for the man in an anonymous job. So recently we've been back and completely redone our website, and our website is, it still tells us what we do, it tells people what we do, but it's very much about our culture, what we do, what we believe in our business. at the prompt in one of my business mentors prompted us to create an actual culture book that we give to employees. So I would say absolutely number one, your company culture.
Okay. Also, Bronwyn, while we're here, we say it a lot and we hear it a lot. What is culture? What is a good one and what is a bad one?
Really good question. It took us a lot of thinking to get to that, because if you go online, there's words, there's vision, mission, values, principles, all culture, all that sort of stuff, purpose. So we actually stepped back and had a really big long think about what all those words meant to us and defined what they meant to us. I'm happy to share what we came up with, but a culture is that progression of, to me, of what are the outcomes we want for our business? Who do we need to get those outcomes? What do we have to do to get those people to work with us to get those outcomes? And to me, it's trust. They have to trust us. So how do we engender trust? It's by our actions. It's what we do. But how do we decide what to do? How do we decide what our business strategy is? How do we decide what our values are? And at the top of the pinnacle is the purpose. What is the purpose of your business? The deep underlying purpose of your business. If you can be clear on that, everything else cascades down from that. Now, the values that you have in your business may not be the values that you have in our business. Now, if you were a gang of criminals, you've obviously got a different set of values to what we have. So your values are very much individual to your company.
Great, thank you, Bronwyn. Caesar, you've mentioned that you'd like to add a bit of value in this space as well.
Yes, because I agree with everything that Bronwyn is saying, and at the same time, with that, you're gonna be able to allocate space for people to commit mistakes, take ownership, and make the culture work to yourself. Because part of you being a business owner, part of your business is that the business can grow by itself, and then the culture is a big part of it, because lay a platform for people to feel comfortable enough to take ownership, commit mistakes, get better, and keep growing, and being open to be able to be a better professional or person as you go. So just to add those items as part of the culture. So if you don't know exactly how to break your purpose, or you don't know exactly where you are in your culture, if you do have a space that you allow people to do their part of the job, add the value, even when they commit mistake, you help them to keep growing and getting better, that's a solid base for your culture to be able to create the right tools or the right techniques to put things together again and allow yourself to keep growing.
Great, thanks, Caesar. Okay, for the needs analysis of recruiting a new staff member, are there any templates that we could recommend that we can be modified? What I can suggest, first and foremost, we've got a workforce planning strategy that has a wealth of information that you as business owners can access. It can help you identify challenges, but also put together templates and a plan, a workforce strategy plan. So essentially I'll start sort of directing you there. I can send everybody the links to all the relevant templates and recommendations the mentors put forward to you after the session. But mentors, is there any other sort of resources that you would recommend in regards to recruiting? Anybody?
I've used the
Bronwyn, you go.
I've used the top grading methodology. I don't know if anyone else has heard of it, but it's an approach to it's an approach to recruitment that goes a little bit further than the normal recruiting process, and it also makes places a lot of importance on not just the technical skills of the person, but the intellectual and emotional skills of the person.
Wonderful, thank you. Clayton, did you have something to add as well?
Just trying to unmute myself. The mouse is playing up. I suppose another valuable resource could be businessqueensland.gov.au. and of course fairwork.gov.au. There's particularly on the Business Queensland website, there is a truckload of stuff around employing people. So I reckon go for the usual suspects first and see what you can get from there, and then maybe spread your search a little wider.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you, Clayton. What I might do, that's all we've got for, we don't have any other questions there. So what I might do, it's a good segue into, so if you can just see up on your screen now, there are the free resources that we have mentioned during this session. So the Business Queensland website has a wealth of information on employing and hiring. We've also got the workforce planning section on the website, and we also have a wealth of information around our Ask a Mentor series, which covers a multitude of different business topics. We also, as mentioned earlier, we've got the workforce planning Connect toolkit. So here you can develop your workforce plan, as well as address a specific challenge that you may be experiencing. So I'll send all these links to you after this session. And then finally, if you want some more assistance and support in this area, you can certainly register for a free mentoring session with some wonderful mentors like the ones that we've had here today. So there's the link, or you can email us at m4g@desbert.qld.gov.au. So that is it for today. Thank you to our wonderful mentors for volunteering your time, your wisdom and expertise today. So thank you very much. And thank you to our attendees as well for attending the session today and taking the time out of your busy schedules to come along. And we look forward to seeing you at a Mentoring for Growth session soon. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.